Alright, what's going on everybody? So right now I'm just over at Home Depot. One of the things I really wanted to get done before I kept going on with the E30 was to build a workbench, so that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm just going to load everything into the wagon real quick. I got pretty much everything I need to get like a solid like 8-foot workbench for about 50 bucks, including nails, glue, and then the shitty ass socks. I don't really feel like dragging my miter saw and everything all the way over to the shop just for, you know, like 4 or 5 cuts. So we're gonna do this today real quick, and then we're gonna keep on going with the E30. A couple of you guys asked me why I drive a wagon, and literally this is probably one of the most prime examples I can show you. I got everything I need in the back without the trunk open, and I still have enough room to shift, which is pretty dope. There's about, I don't know, good like 3 inches there probably, so I can still drive. So it should be good. So we're gonna take this all up to the compound, start chopping this stuff up. I'll kind of show you guys what I'm doing, and then we'll kick it back over to the E30. Alright guys, so I'm pretty sure this is probably what the top of the table is going to look like. It's about 35-ish inches wide by about 8 feet long. Wood glue all the jambs, stick it all together. A couple side screws all along the center in 3 spots. Let that kind of cure for a little bit, and then either make a frame around it and then bring the legs up from the bottom, or just screw the legs in directly to the bottom of the deck. I'm not entirely sure. I have to see how much 2x4 I bought. I pretty much kind of just came up with this on the fly as I was shopping around for wood, so I don't really know if I bought enough, but we're going to find out. If I didn't, it's not a big deal. I'll go back to Home Depot, grab another couple 2x4s, bring them back here, we'll just keep going. It's not far away, it's only like 5 minutes down the road, so, you know, it is what it is. Alright, so pretty much what we got going on here is this part right here is 22 inches long, which is the exact width of that. I actually got it wrong, it wasn't 30 something, it was 22 inches. So that right there is going to bolt up to the side of that. First leg is going to be here. First leg is 34.5 inches, which is a good height for me. I'm not a tall dude, so I don't need a huge ass tall bench, so should be good. Second leg, again, 34.5 inches, and then we just got a little bit of scrap there, about 1.5 inches of scrap. So I'm going to do that 4 times on all 4 pieces. And I think if I do single 2x4 legs, I should have enough to create a small frame around this piece right here, this top table, or at least get the edges done. And then I can always come back with another 2x8 and then finish the front afterwards. I kind of want to get the bulk of this done without having to go out. That way when I do have to go out, I can let all the glue dry, and by the time I get back, it should be pretty much ready to kind of nut and bolt together, and then smash it up, put some stuff on it. If it breaks, fuck me. If it doesn't, we'll stick. And then, yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now. Alright, so I'm pretty much going to start gluing the centerpiece into the top of the table. I'm going to fire in some glue along the sides of each jamb. I don't have wood clamps because I don't normally work with wood ever, so I never really saw a need to have any. But I'll probably eventually get some now that I'm kind of doing this stuff, and it kind of sucks not having them. But I'm going to use these old style 5s. I'm going to push them together once the glue's in there, keep everything center. I already drew a center line through all 4 pieces so I can keep everything kind of in the same ballpark when I put that end piece on, so it's all straight. I'm going to cut the second one from this side, butt it in, glue it all down, let it sit for a little bit, then flip it over, and then start kind of building from the ground up with the legs and everything. Once I get all 4 corners, I'll flip it up and then try and see how much wood I have left again for the side pieces, for the edges of the legs, and then for that secondary shelf on the bottom. But that's kind of where we are, so we're going to start doing that stuff now, and then see where we get. Alright guys, so we got most of the shelf done. What we're going to be pretty much doing now, or sorry, what I've already done is actually I used the 2x6s that were actually going to be for the center rails. These ones right here. These are going to be for the secondary shelf. I ended up having enough 2x4 that I can actually bolt those all together and make like a somewhat space shelf so I can still put heavy items on there. I just can't put like really small stuff, but that's okay. I'm also going to do something cool to the bench as well. You guys know I like to weld, so I'm going to do something cool with that and show you guys what's going on there. I'm also going to do the legs. I'm going to flip it down, bolt in all 4 legs, flip it back up, straighten the legs out, do a cross beam between both legs and make sure it's strong. And then fire the 2x4s, and it hopefully should be good. And I'm going to show you guys what that looks like right now. Alright, so the last step that we have to do is we have to throw in a piece of 2x4 against both legs on both sides, and then throw in our secondary shelf, and that should really stiffen this thing up. If I have to go out, then I have to go out. I'm going to see what I can do with the wood I have here, and then worst case scenario, I got to pick some more up, not a big deal. But yeah, so we're going to try and get as much as we can done and see where we're at, and then if we have to go out, then you guys are coming with me. Alright guys, so this is pretty much what it's going to look like once it's all done. Yeah, the bottom section actually worked out pretty good, and all I have left over is this little piece here. It's about maybe 3 feet long, if that. So essentially, that's the whole thing. It's 8 feet long by 22 inches wide. More than enough for what I need it for. I did the bottom section, I just spaced them all out. They're not screwed in yet, so don't worry if they're all cockeyed. But yeah, so I'm going to kind of center all those, give it a good spacing between each one. Screw them all down, and that's it. And this thing's like rigid as fuck, so I think it's really gonna help out for further projects and stuff, and storing all sorts of junk and lots of cool stuff. Alright guys, so this pretty much wraps up the bench installation process. I'm pretty fucking stoked about it. It couldn't have come out any better for my skill set. I'm not a carpenter, so a lot of stuff's kind of, you know, not entirely square, but you know, you deal with the cards you're dealt with. I'm personally happy with it, and it's gonna definitely do a lot of work around here. One of the things I was talking to you guys about in a couple clips before this, about some things I was going to try and do to it. This is some 16 gauge plate that I had left over from when I originally was going to make my 240 drifter side skirts. I was going to get them braked out of metal and then weld them to the rocker panels, and then just that was going to be it. Wrap them, paint them, whatever. But I had to buy the whole sheet, so this was kind of the runoff of after I got my stuff sized and sheared at the metal place. So this is going to lay on the table. I'm going to screw it in. Make sure it's nice and snug, and that way it doesn't rattle. I left the corners of the bench open so I could clip my ground and keep it out of the way, so I could just weld small stuff, a little bit of exhaust, whatever I'm going to be working on. This side of the table is just going to be bench vise, you know, grinder, some hand tools, some other shit, maybe poke a couple of holes so I can put my screwdrivers in there, and everything's kind of easy accessible, so I'm not losing stuff and running around and checking the floor for everything, because I like to throw a lot of shit in the ground while I'm working with it. But yeah, so I'm pretty stoked about this. If I didn't put that corner there on all 4 sides, because I didn't know which kind of way this was going to go, it would be up like this when I have my ground clipped in, and then every time I'm welding, I'd be bashing on it, and it would drive me fucking crazy. So this is pretty much it. I'm going to throw casters on it one day next week. I probably won't do that on film, because it's just fucking, you know, 4 bolts a side, up, and then, you know, I can wheel it around. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked, so this is definitely going to help out with for future projects, especially when I'm doing the wagons. I'm going to be taking a lot of that shit off so I can kind of throw it on here and keep it all organized. I'll be welding a bunch of stuff as well. And yeah, so we can now get back to working on the E30. Alright, what's going on everybody? So as you guys saw in the last video, we did the coolant reroute system. I knocked out the JB weld that I shouldn't have put in there in the first place, and I listened to you guys and made sure that I did it properly. So thank you very much to all your kind comments and recommendations about that. I knocked it out in the last video. It's all done. I'm going to show you guys something that I ordered. It finally showed up today. It was supposed to come last week, but it never ended up coming. I don't know what happened. I don't know. They lost the depot, I guess, but it's finally here. I waited all day for DHL to drop it off. I'm going to unbox it for you guys, show you what it is, and then we're going to start installing it. It's going to be sick. Alright guys, so this is the last piece of the puzzle to get the car pretty much functional, and I can actually keep the engine running for longer than 2-3 minutes at a time for fear of overheating and other stuff like that while there's no coolant in it. So you can probably guess what it is. I ordered it off AliExpress. It was about 20 bucks, and then I spent the extra money to get 2-day shipping, and it ended up becoming like a week shipping, so I'm a little bummed about that, but as long as it's here, it doesn't really matter. As you can probably tell, it's a coolant overflow tank. It's aluminum. For the price, I'm pretty happy with the quality, to be honest with you. It looks pretty good. The welds are pretty good. It's got everything we kind of need. So this should hopefully work for what we're going to be using it for. This cap holds 1 bar of boost, which is more than enough for what we need. And the real like kind of selling feature and kind of why I picked this one over a lot of the other ones was this fitting. This fitting is actually the exact same size as the water pump inlet fitting. So the rubber hose will go across this, down through some wizardry that we're going to do in a few minutes, and then it'll go into the water pump, and that'll feed the whole system with fresh coolant. It also has 3/16 overflow line from the radiator to this, so we can dump it back in and keep that flow going, so I'm never low. This fitting just screws onto the bottom down here. We'll put a little Teflon tape on that and kind of lock it in properly once we get this thing kind of buttoned in. Another reason why I kind of chose this one was we were originally going to actually use this early model Coolant-Tank, but as you can see, this one's definitely been through quite a few heat cycles. It's very, very weathered. The inside looks like someone's been using tap water, and there's lots of brown rust and sorts of weird stuff in there because they weren't using deionized water. And this return fitting is actually melted too, which I didn't realize when I bought it. But it was only 10 bucks, so I didn't really care at the time. I just kind of really wanted to get something so I could start making this possible, so I could actually drive the car, because it's been so long. But we're actually going to get rid of this, and one of the reasons why we're going to be getting rid of this, apart from the appearance and the way it looks, is just the overall size. It's about an extra 5 inches longer, and now that I've modified the battery tray in the car to fit the V8, that tank just wouldn't work. The way that the fitting comes out, I would have to 90 again to go underneath the tank, and then come around across the valve covers, and it was just a big fucking shit show, and I really didn't want to do it that way. So we're gonna start plumbing this one in. I'm gonna show you guys kind of how we're gonna do it. It's gonna be a little bit different than you've probably seen before, and I think it's gonna be pretty cool if I can actually pull it off. I've never done it this way before. I've never done this style method of like welding before, soldering. So I'm gonna show you guys kind of how that's gonna happen, and then hopefully we can get this in by the end of the day, and then actually fill it full of coolant and then see what happens. All right, so as I mentioned before, we're gonna be doing a little bit of a different way of routing this whole system in the car for the cooling. What I'm actually going to be using is copper piping for hot water tanks. So this will be the same stuff you find in your house that runs the hot water for your shower, your taps, and all that stuff. So it's not like it won't be able to withstand the temperatures of the engine. This thing probably sees way hotter water than you'd see on this motor at any point in time, unless it was like legitimately overheating due to an actual issue with the water pump or something. So pretty much we're going to be using this. I'm going to chop it down, kind of make all my bends. I got all the fittings that I needed to make sure everything works, and I also got the exact same fitting size for the water pump. So this line will come off this 90 down here. That'll fill into the water pump. This section up here will 90 off and go straight into that tank I just showed you guys. One of the ways that we're going to be doing this is we have a plumbing solder kit. I've never personally used this stuff before. I soldered a bunch of stuff, so it's going to be probably pretty easy, but it's also going to be a little tricky at the same time, just to make sure that it's watertight and everything's sealed and it's good. So we're definitely going to take our time with this. And one of the ways you can actually do this at home soldering wise is a traditional gun won't work because it's just not hot enough to melt the solder to the metal and make sure that the base metal is hot enough to accept the solder and give you proper penetration. So one of the ways you can do it is with just a simple propane torch, or you can use an oxyacetylene torch, but you have to kind of watch your flame distance with that, because if you get too close you could actually burn the metal and oxidize it to the point where the solder won't stick, or you'll get a form of porosity. You won't actually get porosity, you'll get a type of it where the metal oxidizes and then the solder actually gets little pinholes in it. So we're going to be using this. This is just a simple torch. I got this for 20 bucks at Home Depot. The Benzomatic plumbing solder kit was 9 bucks. So this whole system is probably going to cost me maybe $40 plus the tank, so 60 bucks. Now I can't really complain about that, as opposed to spending, you know, $200, $300, $400 on an aluminum tank alone, and then still having to go out and buy the proper necessities to kind of wire it up and hook it up and everything. So we're going to try and do this, and then hopefully I don't fuck it up. If I do, you know, it's a learning curve. It's something I've never done before. You guys are going to come along for the ride, and you're going to watch me either succeed or fail, and either way, it should be alright. So let's give it a shot. Alright guys, so I just stuck the tank in to make sure it fit. It seems to clear everything, and I think the hood will actually probably still fit it, hopefully. It's no higher than the fuse box, so I'm kind of judging that off everything. The fuse box is about the same height as the tank itself, so I think the hood will probably still close. You can see our fitting down there. It'll be a straight piece, 90, copper tube to the front, Copper tube will come down here, it'll do another 90, and then it'll go right into the inlet in the pump, which is right down there. And then that'll feed the cooling system and hopefully stop any overheating issues, and everything will be sick and it'll work properly. Alright, so we're going to try and actually weld one of these pieces on, and hopefully nothing leaks once we do it. I got my buddy Nav here to give me a hand so we can kind of get this done professionally as possible. The plumbing kit came with everything you kind of need. It comes with the flux paste, the wire, and then we got the torch hooked up right here. So I'll turn that on once we're ready to rock. But essentially what he says is you paint the flux on both sides, slip the collar over top, make sure the joint's nice and tight, turn the propane on, heat up the pipe, and then start to dab as you kind of go along and rotate the pipe, and then do a full joint, let it cool, and then that should pretty much be it. Okay, so pretty much what's going to happen is it's going to come out of the back of the coolant expansion tank, small piece of rubber hose across to this piece. We still have a fitting to put on there, but I got to buy a second one. It's going to run down the top of the valve cover, come right to this section here. It's going to 90 down, 90 across, 90 down, and it's going to go into the factory hose that came off the water pump, which goes right into the inlet. And then this will come straight up. That'll attach right there underneath the MAP sensor. And that should pretty much solve the entire cooling system. Alright, so pretty much I have to get a piece of hose for this because that piece isn't the actual proper diameter, but I'll get that tomorrow. So we're going to wrap this up real quick. Tank's in, comes out to the 90, all that stuff's been fluxed, comes across the valve cover to a 90, to another 90, to another 90. That goes into the factory 540 hose that goes across into the water pump, and that goes into the inlet. And that should pretty much feed the cooling system for the car, and then I'll put the whole front section back on with the radiator, and then we'll run the overflow line right back to the tank again, cap on, put fluids in it, do an oil change, and then fire this thing up and see what happens. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to wrap up the video for today. I ran out of ring connectors when we were doing the temperature sensor install, so I'm going to grab that tomorrow. I also have to grab the piece of tubing for the pipe for the coolant and all that stuff. We'll mount the reservoir in the next video. We'll do the wiring for all that stuff. In the next video, I'm going to talk to you guys about the M62 wiring, because I know there's a couple of questions I've had about that and how we've kind of done it. So I'm going to try and go into as much in-depth detail as I can, and I'll show you guys all that in the next one. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go home now, maybe order some parts online. Like I always say, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Damn. Always throwing deuces.